having great success building this Division I program along the shores of Long Island Sound at Fairfield University. We're just down the road in Bridgeport, the home of the Fairfield Stags, and we are underway with MAAC quarterfinal number 2. Red Foxes are the number 9 seed. They beat Niagara in last night's 8-9 game, 73-61 to get to this point. Marist will keep possession. They won that game against Niagara last night, Rob, despite a terrific performance by Anthony Nelson in his final college game. He went for 28, but Marist got enough from a variety of different players to advance.
Well, you're right. They spread the wealth, and they did a great job of getting the basketball inside. Dominated points in the paint against Niagara, 42-26. That'll be a lot more difficult tonight to do that against Fairfield's defense.
Jay Bowie off the mark. And here is the point guard, at least for the time being, Jamel Fields. Also, Colin Nickerson will come off the bench before too long. They've got some interchangeable parts in this Fairfield backcourt.
And really, Doug, they've got interchangeable parts all over the floor. One of the reasons why they're so good defensively. They've got guys that can guard multiple positions.
Fields glances up at the shot clock and fires away. Nice closeout by Dorvell Carter. May have gotten a piece of it. And here is Carter at the other end. A little strong. And look out. Urel Hawkins standing his ground. And Jay Bowie came up over his back. And here's the B-Smart, Dry-Smart keys to the game.
Oh, if you're Marist, protect the paint. Allow Fairfield to knock down threes, just 7 of 34 in their 2 games from beyond the arc. They've got to compete on the glass, can't get beaten up. Fairfield forced turnovers. They forced 35 turnovers in their 2 wins against Marist. And then, Doug, just play. They're the better team. Don't play tight. Just come out and play their ball game, and they'll be able to advance on.
Ryan Olander with an easy 2.
Good job of sealing, making sure he got the defender on the high side. Good feed to find them.
He is a skilled 7-footer. Second leading scorer this year for Fairfield, averaging nearly 11 per game.
Yeah, skilled and bouncy. Good combination for the big guy.
Former AAU teammates going at it over in the corner. Camden Rusin and Jamel Fields from their days in Albany with the City Rocks. Here it is again. 5 to shoot. Rusin can't find the range.
And he's not a guy that can create his own shot. He's got to get it in the context of their offense, running off screens or spotting up on dribble penetration.
Nice look inside by Olander. It appeared to maybe have been deflected. That's what Olander said. But it's a turnover, so not so nice a look. Was it the assistant coach's fault that they threw that ball out of bounds?
It always is.
You know.
I tell you what, Ed was all fired up earlier today. He couldn't wait for this game to be starting. He's usually kind of laid back and smiling. A little bit of pressure on him, especially here in his own building. And he was showing it a little bit this morning. I think you get past the first game, and then you're kind of back to that jovial, happy-go-lucky guy. But they were a little tight.
Well, Ed Cooley said that he woke up this morning at 3 o'clock and couldn't go back to sleep. He was so fired up, and so now 14 hours later, he's finally able to work off some of that energy.
And, of course, you know me. I was just kind of fanning the flames there, saying, my goodness, you're all uptight here. He's laughing. At least I made him smile.
Well, it doesn't take much to get Ed Cooley smiling.
Well,
he is one of the good guys in the industry. Pretty much liked by everybody around the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference.
And I tell you what, a guy who's done a great job of not only winning basketball games, but rebuilding their roster. You look at their roster, and it's built to win for a while.
Devin Price, no. And Barrow clears the rebound. Hawkins, catch and shoot, no. Carter clears. Marist still looking for its first points. Now, most importantly for Coach Cooley is that he has won. He's already the 4th winningest coach in Fairfield basketball history.
And you see those 23 wins, a school record as far as regular season wins are concerned. win a couple of games here in the MAAC tournament, and they will break that record. What he's also done, Doug, is he's improved his win total each and every year. And when you're in your 5th year, now that's hard to do. You know, you can do it for a couple of years, but to sustain that for 5 consecutive years, well, that's saying something.
Olander passes out of the double team. Comes to Hawkins for the open 15-footer. Out of bounds. Fairfield basketball. We'll take a break. Fairfield has the only 2 points on the board so far here in Bridgeport. There's a look at the jam-packed student section from Fairfield University, available all weekend in high definition. The entire MAAC television network's coverage of the Spark Energy MAAC Basketball Championships, available in HD from here in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And that means all of the preliminary games, quarterfinals, semifinals, onto the women's and men's championships, which can be seen live Monday. The women at 1 o'clock on ESPNU, and then the men's championship on ESPN2 HD Monday night at 7 o'clock. Ryan Olander has the only 2 points in the ball game so far. Bad pass by Barrow to Nickerson, and it's a turnover.
Yeah, you got to put that ball on the floor. Bounce pass coming off that flex cut inside. Maybe you get yourself a good look. He was open, just a bad pass.
Well, if Marist has a hope of pulling off what would be a monumental upset, they would need to continue a trend they have had the last 4 games of not turning the basketball over. Only 8.5 turnovers per game over the last 4, and in large part because of that, they have won a couple of those ball games.
And as we said, 35 in their 2 losses during the regular season to Fairfield. So the Stags are a team that gets up and puts pressure on you and forces those turnovers.
Now, the game here was competitive. Marist only lost by 7, and the game was about that close. Arguably the fastest man in the league, Colin Nickerson, nearly coming up with that steal.
And coming up with the steal. Fairfield, they turn you over not by getting out into full court pressure, but solid half-court defense. The double, forcing the basketball out of Bauer's hands and nearly forced the turnover.
Shot clock at 7. Devin Price, right to the bucket, and Olander denies. Shot clock violation. The 7-footer from just up the road in Mansfield, Connecticut, makes sure that the Red Foxes stay scoreless.
Well, there's his bounce and athleticism. He came off defending the high ball screen set by Bauer, yet he's quick enough off his feet to get deep into the lane. 2.1 blocks, 3rd best in the MAAC.
Olander at 7 foot, 220. A junior out of E.O. Smith High School.
And Doug, when you get a 7-footer at this level, it's usually a plodding center. That's not the case with Olander. Quick off his feet. We saw that on his defensive rotation to come up with that block.
Well, you know, it's not unprecedented here at Fairfield to have a bouncy big like that.
Yeah.
Dan Guy was here just a few years ago and had a cup of coffee after establishing all the block shot records in MAAC history. Had a cup of coffee with the 76ers. And so you're right, it doesn't happen often, but Fairfield's been blessed now twice in the last decade.
Not quite as athletic as Dengai as Olander, but again, you're right. It's interesting. 2 guys that could really cover ground despite their size. You don't get that a whole lot at the mid-major level.
Jay Bowie stepped out of bounds, and the struggles at the offensive end continue for the Red Foxes and for Chuck Martin.
Yeah, luckily for Chuck Martin and Marist, Fairfield has also struggled offensively. Just 2 points here in the first 5.5 minutes of the ball game.
Marist has to be feeling good about itself, though, coming off the win over Niagara last night, 73-61. That's the largest margin of victory for Marist in 2 years. So if they're going to feel good about themselves, now is the time. Warren Edney's come into the game for the Stags. Here goes Nickerson like a jet.
You're right, that quick first step as he just went right around the defender, Camden Rusin. Marist got to play containment defense. They cannot allow Fairfield to beat him off the bounce and get into the lane. They got to concede some outside shots. They're going to be able to guard the paint.
Menelik Watson off the bench for the Red Foxes with the ball for a moment. Now he sets the screen for Devin Price. 7 on the shot clock. And the sophomore from Inglewood, California is off the mark. Needham around Olander. Perfect use of the window.
And that was a tough shot. The only way he finishes it is by putting it up on the glass.
First 2 points for the sophomore, who played his high school ball on the south side of Chicago at De La Salle Institute. Rusin answers at the other end, and the Red Foxes are finally on the board.
He's a guy who can really step into shots. He's also a streak shooter, even though his three-point percentage down 10 points from where it was last year. Still a pretty good three-point shooter at 33%.
Needham for 3. Got it.
And he stepped right into that one with a ton of confidence. I'm sorry, Doug. He struggled in their first 2 games when they met against Marist. Marist did a real good job of guarding Needham out at the three-point line.
Foul called against Watson as the Red Foxes turn it back over to Fairfield.
Well, there's that quick first step that you were talking about, able to blow by, and then Needham coming right off that screen. Good feed, easy feed from Nickerson. And that's the confidence you like to see from Derek Needham.
And there's that terrific sophomore class of guards that Fairfield got out of Illinois a couple of years ago, and they have been the starting backcourt for the better part of the season, but not here tonight. They had Jamel Fields, who was coming off a terrific performance in the regular season finale, get the start. But again, that versatility, and it's not just seniors or juniors or sophomores. It's every class has something to offer here at Fairfield. Dorvell Carter with the bucket.
That's what we were talking about. This roster is built to be good for a while. They had a guy in each of the classes, freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, that was honored as a member of an all-MAAC team. That's pretty good class balance.
Including that man who just got fouled on his putback attempt. Maurice Barrow, freshman from Queens, made the MAAC all-rookie team.
There's Barrow, does a great job of pursuing the basketball off the rim. 6 rebounds per game.
Needham out, and Jamel Fields back in. I talked about the game that Fields had in the regular season finale. He had 21 points at Iona in a game that Fairfield lost, but very nearly pulled out thanks in large part to Fields in the second half.
They had 16 of those 21 in that second half when they made a run to get back in the ball game.
Terrific crowd here for quarterfinal number 2. The hometown Fairfield Stags looking to make everybody in red happy. Back in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Fairfield has opened up a 5-point lead, winding down to the midpoint of the first half, and we bring back in the third member of our broadcast team here this weekend, former Loyola Athletic Director Joe Boylan. And Joe, your thoughts on the first 8 minutes of this one so far?
Well, I think if you're a Marist, you have to love the first 5 minutes. Fairfield only scored 2 points. I mean, you got to feel this is the kind of game that you want to be kind of a back-and-forth game, and then Fairfield's extended it to 5 points. So Marist, you just have to keep in touch. And, you talk about the crowd and the home court advantage. If you're a player, you got to love to play in front of people. Back to you, Doug.
Yeah, no question, Joe. And Rob and I certainly feel the same way, that regardless of who they're rooting for, at tournament time, you just want people in the stands, whether they're yelling at you or for you.
No question. It seems like the game's got a better pace. It ends up having a better flow, although that wasn't the case as both teams got out to real slow starts, but they've picked it up since then.
Corey Bauer strong inside, but he couldn't corral it.
Yeah, the two teams combined to start just 1 of 12 from the floor. Since then now 5 out of 7 after that miss by Bauer. So sometimes you get a little too jacked up to start things off. At the end, you know, you get that burst energy that'll carry you for a couple of minutes, Doug, and then after that, it's all about executing. You know, you can get all riled up and have a new Rockney speech and all that. That wears off. At the end of the day, you still got to get out on the floor and execute.
Needham still with the bounce all the way to the bucket. And another tough shot off the glass.
In the same exact spot, driving hard to his right. And that's the only way he can finish it, by putting it up on the board and giving it a chance. Off to a quick start.
Just a sophomore, now only 30 points away from reaching 1,000 for his career.
Remember, last year as a freshman, he had a terrific MAAC tournament.
And he set the Fairfield freshman record for points that had been held by Joe DeSantis for many, many years.
Yeah, both he and Nickerson, the two freshmen last year, had terrific MAAC tournaments.
Hawkins will shoot two.
Well, Derek Needham's one of those guys that can not only beat you off the bounce and use his quickness, but he's got that upper body strength to be able to finish. Look at that body control. Not even a lot of contact there, but watch how he kind of bounces off, but puts it up on the glass and gives it a chance.
And he was battling some flu-like symptoms last weekend to close out the regular season, but by all appearances, he is fit to go here this weekend.
And you and I talked about it last year when he was a freshman. Didn't look like a freshman, didn't play like a freshman. From the moment he stepped on the floor here at Fairfield, he had a presence about him, and he also had that upper body strength to be able to go finish.
Now, credit to last year's senior class of Anthony Johnson and Mike Ivanovich. Both very good, very productive players, but they were happy to defer to Needham. They understood that he was the guy to lead them.
Yep, and then late in the year, it was Anthony Johnson who took over with his monster run coming down the end of the regular season. And then again, a good tournament run as they were able to get all the way to the finals and take Siena into overtime before losing last year.
Bowie turns it over. Can the Red Foxes hang in with a regular season chance?
Well, they can only do that if they can score it a little bit. If there's some separation, that's what Joe Boylan was talking about. You got to hang around and stay close for a while. You get too much separation and they're in trouble. Here's the trap coming as Bowie gets himself, as he picks up the basketball. You put yourself in trouble, turns into a turnover.
And that leads to the second foul on Jay Bowie. And so the freshman from Tampa, Florida takes a seat on the Marist bench. Sam Prescott on the floor. Prescott is Marist's top offensive option at nearly 12 points per game, trying to hold his ground in the post now against Keith Matthews. Bodies fly everywhere. 5 out of the 10 players are on the floor. No whistle, just out of bounds.
A lot of those guys on the floor because Barrow came over the top and just knocked everybody to the ground. It's one thing to be aggressive as Nickerson kind of puts it up on the rim.
Looked like a bowling ball.
Yeah.
Pins were flying everywhere.
Good tackle on the takedown by Barrow.
Nickerson, way too strong. Anel Alexis just into the game. Tracks down the long rebound. Bauer fouled by Matthews. Don't miss out on all the excitement. It's still not too late to get your tickets for the Spark Energy MAAC Basketball Championships now through Monday right here at Webster Bank Arena at Harbor Yard in Bridgeport, Connecticut. You can get your tickets by logging on to MAACsports.com or by calling 1-800-745-3000 or at Webster Bank Arena at Harbor Yard box office. The 2011 Spark Energy MAAC Basketball Championships. Every game counts.
Well, still time, but I wouldn't wait too long based on the crowd we got here for the quarterfinals.
Prescott into Bauer.
You get it that deep, you got to convert. Can't have empty trips into the paint against Fairfield.
Marist has been stuck on 5 for a while. Hawkins. Shot an 18-footer from about 17 feet. Here goes Alexis. And he lays it in.
Well, Price pushing the pace, getting the ball quickly up the floor, not allowing Fairfield's defense to set. And then Alexis able to step across and finish.
Now the redshirt freshman from Hillsborough, New Jersey has come on strong. at the end of the season for the Red Foxes. Nickerson thought about it. And now the Stags will reset. Here goes Nickerson along the baseline. And he was fouled on the drive.
And he put such pressure on the defense, Doug, with that quick first step. On the catch, bang, he's putting it to the floor and really putting you in a tough spot. Good ball reversal, the extra pass by Barrow, and then bang, it's to the deck and quickly going by the defender. Mentioned Sam Prescott, the leading scorer on the season for Marist, nursing an ankle injury. Didn't play in the regular season finale up at Siena, but did play 17 minutes in the win last night against Niagara after not practicing the entire week.
Well, he was very productive in the 2 regular season meetings with Fairfield. They need his offense here tonight.
You look at this Fairfield team, they don't have overwhelming size, but I tell you what they do. They pursue the basketball. They're a good rebounding team because they've got a number of different guys that can go chase the basketball down. If you're going to hang with them, you got to compete on the backcourt.
Foul against Price, trying to keep Needham from getting to the lane one more time. That's the 7th team foul against Marist, and we've got ourselves a media timeout. 7:57 on the clock. Fairfield, the number 1 seed, up by 7. The number 1 seeded Fairfield Stags with a 7-point lead over Marist here in the quarterfinals. And if you can't make it here to Webster Bank Arena at Harbor Yard to see the Spark Energy MAAC Men's Championship game in person, be sure to watch it live Monday night, 7 Eastern on ESPN2 in high definition. Somebody will be cutting down these nets, and certainly the folks who have packed this building here this evening hope it's the Fairfield Stags, a team that very nearly was able to cut down the nets a year ago in the MAAC championship game, losing in overtime up in Albany to the Siena Saints, who are still the 3-time defending champs. But Fairfield would love to dethrone Siena. But first, they've got to get by the 9th-seeded Marist Red Foxes.
Look at that defense on the ball by Nickerson. Nearly forced a 5-second violation. Every one of their guys can guard. And that's when you got real solid man-to-man defense, when all 5 guys defend as a team.
Warren Edney, who has had ankle and foot trouble in the past, lost his footing on the way up, and a missed opportunity. I'm just glad he's back on his feet and not injured again.
He was worrying about dunking a basketball or doing something special for a highlight. Instead, it's a low light. You just hope on a play like that, see him come up hobbling, that he's all right.
He missed all of last season with ankle surgery, and I'm glad to see he is smiling because he looked like me trying to take off for a dunk. He didn't get off the ground. Now, he opened his sophomore year with a monster game at Memphis. Scored 24 points, blocked 3 shots against Tyreek Evans and what was a terrific Memphis team at the time. And Edney looked like he was going to be a real cornerstone at that point. But the ankle injuries have really derailed some of that. Now he's more of a role player. But again, another one of those pieces that Ed Cooley has. Big, physical, strong guy who can do different things.
Well, you're right. Pieces and interchangeable parts. He goes to the bench and he brings another guy that can go guard multiple positions off the bench.
Matthews couldn't handle the pass from Needham.
And not a good decision there by Needham in the open floor. He pushes things a lot, and because of that, he turns the ball over a little bit more than you'd like to see from your point guard.
Alexis off the bounce.
Got to be able to find a better shot than that.
But so far in the first 13 minutes, they've not been able to do that. The defense by the Stags has been stout.
Yep, and that's the way it's been all season long for Fairfield. Hard to score on.
Needham has the range. He's got 10 points to lead all scorers.
And when he does that, when he's making outside shots, lights out.
He's got a couple of threes and a couple of strong drives to the right side of the lane where he has banked it in, showing the repertoire that has him as a first-team all-conference performer. Carter as it's stripped away by Matthews.
Boy, the defensive intensity by Fairfield here early on has been impressive. They struggled a little bit early on offensively, but their defense has been great right from the start.
Price doing a lot of dribbling, and then his pass goes off the shoulder of Alexis out of bounds.
Well, you talked about how Marist took care of the basketball last few games. Not taking care of the basketball because of the swarming defense by Fairfield. They've forced 9 turnovers already here, and we still got 5:47 left to go in this first half.
Defense does not go on a slump.
No, and they played a little bit different defensively over the last couple of weeks, almost trying to get a little greedy, stretching the floor, getting out, trying to come up with steals in different places. Here tonight, you see him back to that solid defense. That's not easy to do, by the way, either.
No, Ryan Olander wins the award.
Yep. That's one of those with the assistant coach. You want a light moment in film session tomorrow, you make sure this one's on the tape.
It's hard to do.
In there.
Hard to do.
Yeah.
Needham with a third triple, and Chuck Martin has to use a timeout.
Derek Needham right now shooting his number. Stepping up, great rotation on the basketball. Baseline out of bounds, great execution. He's the guy that inbounds it, just follows the basketball for the handoff to knock down that three. See Needham ball fake at the defense going one way. Nice handoff, and you see right there, good job by Olander after he hands it to Needham for the three, kind of backs his way in as a screen, and that's why you're smiling right there. Needham off to a quick start.
Well, he's got 13 points. Everybody else in the game has combined for 14 points. And he is typically efficient. Last year's MAAC Rookie of the Year, who, by the way, set the all-time record for Rookie of the Week awards with 10. He passed Lionel Simmons, the great Lionel Simmons, from the old LaSalle Explorer days. So if you're Derek Needham and you're putting your name alongside some of the greats in the 30-year history of this conference, you're doing something.
And certainly, when you look at his numbers, you say, okay, he had a better freshman year than he did as a sophomore year. One of the reasons is he hasn't shot it as well at times this year. Talked about how he struggled in the 2 games against Marist. But when he's making shots the way that he is so far here this afternoon, you're in trouble.
Again, the Red Foxes probing for a shot. This time they're able to get a running layup by Devin Price. Lyndon Jordan also off the bench for the Stags, a steadying hand. Senior from Winder, Georgia. Needham again. Over the back against Hawkins. Well, we mentioned the greatest player in the 30-year history of MAAC basketball, and there he is on the left, Lionel Simmons, National Player of the Year out of this conference.
And you see 3,200 points, 3rd all-time, and Kiki Clark, 6th all-time. So 2 of the top 6 scorers in the history of college basketball out of the MAAC. They've got to be able to convert 2-on-1.
Rusin just seemed indecisive.
Yeah, didn't know where he was going. You got to drive the basketball, force the one defender to guard you. If he doesn't, go finish at the rim. If he does, bounce pass. Make a simple play.
Fairfield turns it back over to Marist. Now this Fairfield team just looks bigger, faster, stronger, more athletic in every way, shape, and form than their opponent here tonight.
You and I were talking about it going to a break. I mean, it looks like men playing against boys, and it's not because of the fact that it's class. You know, sometimes it's you got a young team, which certainly Marist is a very young team, the youngest team in the league. But their freshmen and sophomores look physically stronger than the upperclassmen do of Marist.
And I imagine, Rob, with the shot clock down to 4, Alexis going to have to fire away. And he banks it in. That's a 2-point shot for the redshirt freshman. But what we're talking about, I would imagine that's a combination of recruiting and also your strength and conditioning program.
Yeah, you look at, and again, Derek Needham walked in from day one looking like he was a defensive backfield guy. I mean, he could play safety in the NFL with that body. So yeah, some of it's going out and recruiting guys to play to a certain style of play. Ed Cooley wants to be able to get up and put pressure on you defensively, wants to make sure that they're going to be physically tough, and so he goes recruit guys like that. But then also the commitment by guys. You look at Olander, who is not one of those guys, but look at his upper body now, where he was a pencil thin guy as a freshman. He's now been able to put some weight to handle himself defensively in the post.
Watson fouled on the baseline. Well, the Red Foxes just trying to hang on for dear life, looking for help from anywhere. The son of Wendell Alexis, former Syracuse star, Anel Alexis, using the window. Nice. Won the regular season championship this year, and we've talked about the talent being stockpiled by head coach Ed Cooley, and they're just going to get better. You see two transfers sitting out. Rakeem Sanders, a 6'5 senior from Boston College, and Desmond Wade, a 5'8 junior from Houston. They'll both be eligible next year to join the Stags.
And at times, Ed Cooley said Rakeem's been their most dominant player in practice, got great length. You see those numbers that he was able to put up, double-figure score in each of his 3 years in the ACC. And then Desmond Wade is an absolute blur with the basketball in his hands. You see, averaged nearly 5 assists in his last season at Houston. I can't imagine those guys out on the run. Needham, and you put the ball in Des Wade's hands with Needham running one lane, and then you got guys like Nickerson running the other lane. Boy, they could be something special.
Well, again, Ed Cooley able to get players that perhaps other coaches can't. He's able to connect on a certain level that really resonates with young people in this day and age, to be able to get guys like that to come to Fairfield.
Yep, does a great job in the home. You can tell with his personality, he comes in and gets a home visit. He's going to close a lot of those deals. And then also going back to his contact. And certainly when you talk about Rakeem Sanders playing his first 3 years of college basketball for Ed Cooley's mentor and Al Skinner, and with the coaching change, PC going in a different direction. And so Rakeem Sanders wanted to make sure that he finished up his college career playing for somebody that he was real comfortable with, and certainly had that comfort level with Ed Cooley.
And you know, Rob, we have been hearing from people who watch the Fairfield practices and are around them that, you know, the best player on the Fairfield team might just be one of the transfers coming in. And, you know, we heard that a couple of years ago about a guy named Wes Johnson at Syracuse. And, you know, coaches don't just say that unless they mean it. And it certainly worked out well at Syracuse, where Johnson came and had such a huge impact on that team. Do we see a similar type of impact potentially out of this one-year guy coming to Fairfield?
Well, certainly Sanders is going to be an athlete without par in this league. At 6'5", he runs the floor. He really gets off the floor and can do some different things. But remember, one of the differences is they've got a unquestioned star, the guy that just scored it again right there, when he steps out onto the floor. So Derek Needham, even though Sanders is a great talent, and certainly Des Wade, a guy that can be a game changer as far as his blow-by speed in the open floor, this is still going to be Derek Needham's team, and here's why. Bang. Bounces off the contact, finishes the play. His presence on the floor is really something special. His numbers this year didn't show you how good he was, but his presence, when you're around him every day, that's something that clearly is special.
And the other person we saw in that shot on the bench, the 3 players sitting out, was Sean Crawford, a junior from Laurelton, New York, who had knee surgery in December. He should be back and healthy just to be another part in the backcourt next year.
It's got great depth. And when you look at rosters and you see the kind of class balance that they've got, they're built to win right now. They clearly won the regular season, but they're built to win for a while. And that is a true testament to not only Ed Cooley, but his entire staff. Bob Simon, Brian Blaney, and Carmen Marciello doing a great job of bringing in talent year after year. Every once in a while you see somebody have a great recruiting class, falls off for a couple of years. They've gotten productive players in each of their 4 recruiting classes That's really hard to do.
Sam Prescott and the Red Foxes continue to struggle to find shots against this Fairfield defense. Here comes Barrow. Bodies go flying again. Jamel Fields was taken out by Menelik Watson. And there is finally a call after all the contact under the bucket.
Well, Fairfield leads the MAAC as far as scoring defense is concerned. And boy, they are swarming the basketball so far tonight, Doug. If they were able to convert a couple shots on the offensive end, this one would be over. You see Fields down on the floor getting up slowly. But they hold their opponents to under 59 points per game. Best in the MAAC. One of the better defensive teams in the country.
The men's and women's MAAC golf championships return to Disney's Magnolia Golf Course in Lake Buena Vista, Florida from April 29th through May 1st. For more information, log on to MAACsports.com. Camden Roosin with a pair of free throws for the Red Foxes. Now it took Marist 6.5 minutes to score its first field goal here tonight. And they've been playing catch-up ever since at the Webster Bank Arena at Harbor Yard. Our second quarterfinal of our MAAC championships. Menelik Watson gets Jamel Fields again. Jamel is still holding his face and nose. This time they get Watson for the foul call.
A good feed by Olander again. Not just bouncy, but a guy with good skills. Can stretch out, knock down shots. Saw a skill on the pass into the low post.
Corey Bauer back in for Marist. Menelik Watson out after having picked up the foul. Derek Needham will get a break on the Fairfield bench. So you'll have Fields at the point and Nickerson playing the off-guard position for the Stags as they continue to show you the interchangeable parts. Nickerson hounding Prescott.
They can't initiate offense.
They can't even get it into the front court. Nickerson just takes it away every time. And the big follow by Urel Hawkins.
That's a smart play by Nickerson. Even though he doesn't score it, don't turn it over. He's fumbling the basketball, put it up on the rim, give it a chance. And when you've got guys that can run the floor and finish like Fairfield does, there's a good chance they're going to finish it.
I got to figure if you're a Fairfield Stag and you're out there on the break by yourself, you got to figure one or two of your teammates are right behind. So why not just throw it up there?
They are absolutely suffocating defensively. Marist can't get anything going.
Carter barely nicks the iron. Timeout Fairfield. Ed Cooley wants to make a change to get Needham in for this final possession of the half.
Talk about defensive pressure, just absolutely suffocating. Quick feet by Nickerson to get himself in a defensive position to strip the basketball, and then quick hands to take it away. And here again, even though he doesn't finish it, smart enough to put it up on the rim to give one of his teammates like Urel Hawkins an opportunity to clean it up. Right there, perfect example, though, of what Ed Cooley has done the entire time, and that is quick timeout to get Needham back into the ball game. Good call.
Rob, coming up next on our halftime report, our news and notes from around the conference. We'll also share with you the relationship between the head coach Ed Cooley and his star sophomore guard Derek Needham. And, of course, have our first half highlights and statistics. If you have yet to see the impersonation that Derek Needham does of his head coach, we're going to give you more of this and have both of them weigh in on it. And it's pretty good.
I'll tell you what, though, Derek's a little quicker than Ed on the sideline there.
You think? So that's part of what we got coming up at halftime. Nice job defensively by Alexis to stop that lob pass. At the buzzer, Warren Edney couldn't quite finish, but Fairfield very much in control, on top by 13 points. You see the Stags have held their opponents under 30 first half points in all but 6 of their games so far this year.
Well, I just hope they don't hold Marist under 30 in the entire ball game, holding them to just 14 here in this first half.
Their defense has been something. Our score at halftime, Fairfield 27, Marist 14. And we will be back with a MAAC halftime report right after this. Eric Needham, Jamel Fields, Ryan Olander, Maurice Barrow, and Yarel Hawkins, the same starting five in the second half for the top-seeded Stags in their home whites. There is Barrow as the official. Bob Adams loses the basketball right over to us.
That looked like one of Marist's turnovers right there.
And for the Red Foxes, they've just got to try to figure out how to solve this defensive pressure by Fairfield, if it is solvable for this team.
Well, when people get up and crowd you the way they are defensively, you've got to be able to break them down by one of two things. You either got to set solid screens and run great offense to get guys open, or you got to be able to beat guys off the dribble. We've seen they've not been able to beat anybody off the dribble, so you got to go find somebody, set some good screens to give yourself a little bit of breathing room to just initiate offense.
Now there's a good look, but Rusin could not finish. Marist basketball. Barrow was the last to touch. Do you think the Red Foxes have it in them to be able to implement that sort of plan and be able to set enough good screens to get themselves enough good looks?
I'm not sure. Honestly, when you look at how they play offense, remember, Chuck Martin, an assistant coach to John Calipari at Memphis, when the dribble drive offense was so effective for that Memphis team. Let me tell you something. You could have run any offense with that Memphis team.
Yep.
With the athletes they had, and the dribble drive offense really worked because they had guys like Joey Dorsey traveling the floor and getting after it on offense. Everybody else who's run the dribble drive offense hasn't been able to get enough out of it. And you got to be able to screen. You can't just expect to get into gaps and beat people off the bounce to then put pressure on the defense to collapse.
Bad pass taken away by Jamel Fields. And he was fouled and goes hard into the stanchion. Intentional foul called against Jay Bowie.
Now that's a situation where you shouldn't be able to turn the basketball over on a baseline out of bounds play, and then you can pound it with a hard foul at the other end. Bad pass on the inbounds because nothing was happening, because there wasn't a good screen, and I think that's a good call. I mean, Bowie right there with the push, that's not even close. I mean, he goes in hard to the stanchion, and that is a good piece of officiating by Bob Adams.
That's the third hard shot Jamel Fields has taken so far in this ball game. But yes, that was a cheap shot, no question about it.
And Fields, a guy who's had to battle through a number of injuries throughout this season.
Well, let me list them for you. Tongue, knee, back, ear, eye, and toenail.
Yep. And Mark Ayotte, the fine trainer from Fairfield, said his tongue injury, when he basically bit through his tongue, and he said it was the grossest injury that he's seen. And now think about how banged up this Fairfield team has been over the last couple of years. He said that was a gruesome injury. Never saw anything like it.
Fairfield with the ball and its largest lead of the night. Needham, who had 15 in the first half, fouled on his drive to the bucket. And let's check in with the third member of our broadcast team here this weekend, former Rutgers assistant coach Joe Boylan. Joe?
Thanks, Doug. You really got to be impressed with the defensive intensity of Fairfield. I think one of the hardest things to do defensively is guard somebody with the ball, and they're just destroying Marist every time they have the ball. It's really been impressive.
Yeah, they're on the ball defense, and their ability to guard with different guys, interchangeable parts, and so they can switch on handoffs, they can switch on screens, because everybody can guard the perimeter.
There's some of the defensive numbers for the Stags, among the best in the nation at points allowed per game.
He's really done a great job in building that. I mean, to watch him when he came in and how he built that program, and now he's, as you made a good point, Rob, how he's got those classes together. I mean, it's impressive. They're getting like Siena was, maybe. We'll see how it all plays out, though.
Yep, I agree with you. And one thing that was interesting, right from the get-go, Ed Cooley faced adversity as a coach. Injuries and different guys, and so he really had to piece his team together. And they had to do it with their defense. They had to limit possessions, and boy, I think that's paid dividends once he's been able to up their talent level.
Anel Alexis with a block shot for Marist after the block at the other end by Ryan Olander. You remember that first year when Ed Cooley came in and took over. Jonathan Hahn was the lead guard on that team, and they just had so many problems that they had to navigate through. And you know how that goes when you are a coach. You're taking over someone else's program. You want to get guys in there that you're comfortable with. Devin Price with the three, and that takes time sometimes. But as you say, Rob, it didn't take nearly as long as you might think for Fairfield, for Ed Cooley.
No, he didn't worry about it. He said, look, we're not going to all of a sudden, woe is me. Don't worry about it. They're not here. We got to move on. When you look at it, Urel Hawkins missed last year's tournament with an injury. We talked about how much Warren Edney's had to be able to fight through. He's missed the last 2 MAAC tournaments with injuries. So they've had to overcome a lot, and I think that's really helped them as a coach right from the start. They've got these 5 seniors, but when you look at it, 3 juniors, how about 2 sophomores? But when your 2 sophomores are Derek Needham and Colin Nickerson, guess what? You don't need 7 sophomores. And as we said, they've been able to get productive players out of each of their recruiting classes. And that's always so key.
And again, it's a credit to the assistant coaches as much as to Coach Cooley, who are out there pounding the pavement as well.
Yep, and he was the first guy to make sure that he talked about that, not only on the conference call before the MAAC tournament started, but also when he accepted the award as the Coach of the Year.
Needham and Rusin collide, and it's the Marist guard who's called for the blocking foul. Well, the last time Fairfield made it to the NCAA tournament, you see, back in 1997, when they pushed the North Carolina Tar Heels to the limit. And that team came together in large part because of the health of Shannon Bowman, who had been out with some sort of leg or ankle injury, as I recall.
Yep.
While Greg Francis was the MVP of that team and won Player of the Tournament honors, Paul Cormier's club wasn't whole all year, so they had a bad record coming in. They got whole, and it was kind of a Willis Reed type of inspirational performance by Bowman.
Yep, they were the number 8 seed coming into that tournament. Because of all those injuries, came together in an unlikely run to the MAAC championships, their 3rd in school history.
So it's been 14 years since the Fairfield Stags went dancing. And the folks here who have come out in big numbers for this MAAC quarterfinal game in Bridgeport, Connecticut, are hoping that they're going dancing again next Sunday. Actually, we'll find out for sure between now and Monday night. Ragged at both ends. Needham comes up with it. He looks around and catches his breath. Carter, Price, and Rusin around the perimeter for the Red Foxes in their road reds. Corey Bauer and Anel Alexis, the bigs for Marist. Seven to shoot. Alexis glances that way. Into the paint, and he gets the roll.
Good job, Needham, once again with the defensive pressure right on top of you. Release it by driving the basketball into the paint.
Fields, good up fake. From the baseline, has it roll off. Marist only down 11, trying to chip away here. And a foul called against Fields as Rusin drove the baseline. Well, twice here tonight, Anel Alexis, with the shot clock winding down, has come up with big buckets for Marist. Along with Joe Boylan and Rob Kennedy, this is Doug Sherman in Bridgeport, Connecticut. And, you know, it's nice to have talent, but it's even better to have talent with heart, hustle, and desire, and that's Derek Needham.
And he doesn't give up on the play. Turnover, bad pass, good idea, just didn't put it where it needed to be for Olander, but didn't worry about it. Hustles back, comes up with the basketball, and then settles everybody down.
With that said, though, Rob, Fairfield has come out a little bit flat to begin the second half. They are 0 for 4 from the floor with a couple of turnovers, only 3 points. When you have such a comfortable lead, you're the number 1 seed at home taking on the number 9 seed. How do you avoid having what might be occurring here coming out a little bit flat?
Well, you make sure you defend like they've done all game long. You know, as good as they've been defensively, they've not been real good offensively. There's their defense again, not conceding anything. Chuck Martin's team can't even inbound the basketball. Need to take a timeout.
Derek Needham's Fairfield Stags on top by 11, playing for a spot in the MAAC semifinals. 30-19, Fairfield with the lead over Marist here at Webster Bank Arena at Harbor Yard. We're celebrating the 30th year of the Metro Atlantic Athletic Conference. And with that, the MAAC has compiled 30 memorable MAAC moments on Facebook. Check out the MAAC Facebook page at facebook.com/MAAC Sports to see all 30 moments and tell us what your favorite MAAC moment is. And Rob Kennedy, what's your favorite MAAC moment over the last 30 years?
I tell you what, going back to what Lionel Simmons was able to do, Speedy Morris, the team that he and Joe Mihalik as his assistant were able to build at LaSalle, that was something special. And it wasn't just Lionel Simmons. I mean, you know, Randy Woods and Tim Legler and the depth that they had. And for Lionel Simmons to be the National Player of the Year out of this conference, that is my biggest MAAC memory.
Yeah, Doug Overton as well went on to play a decade in the NBA and still an NBA assistant coach. So they had 4 NBA players in the span of 5 years.
Not surprising that they were able to run through the MAAC tournament. As we said earlier, holds a record for 10 consecutive wins in the MAAC tournament, a record that Siena was able to match last night with their overtime win in the first round against Manhattan.
And I don't think you get any argument about the fact that those LaSalle teams in the late 80s and early 90s are the best team in MAAC history, and probably the Siena team over the last 3, 4, 5 years would be number 2. But you know, Ed Cooley's really got some of the building blocks in place that make you think they could sustain it and get themselves maybe at some point into that conversation looking down the road away.
Yep, if they can win championships.
Right.
And that's the thing. So here they've won the regular season championship, but if you're not able to make sure that you take care of business, especially here at home in your home arena, now all of a sudden you can't even be in the conversation if you don't walk away with championships.
And you know what? Joe Boylan, the third member of our team, has been around the league as long as anybody. What do you think about that, Joe? You've heard us talking about, obviously, the LaSalle teams of the late 80s and early 90s in Siena in recent years.
Well, I think you say Lionel Simmons and Doug Overton. I mean, they're not. Simmons was an exceptional player. Fairfield has good players. Right now, you don't see a player like that. I mean, they were very unfortunate not to go to the Final Four. Clemson played a great game against them that day in Hartford. Just an unusual game. But I agree with Rob, but they were far and away the best team I've seen here. And they were fun to watch. One thing about watching Fairfield, too, tonight is you can see those guys are having fun playing. You know, of course, when you steal the ball and get dunked, it helps play.
Yeah, but no, to think that you had 4 NBA players on that LaSalle team, I mean, that's just something that you don't see very often at any mid-major level.
No.
You know, not just here in the MAAC, but in any mid-major conference. If you've got 4 NBA players, guess what? You're going to do a lot of damage. You think about the run that Butler had last year. Certainly, they had an NBA player in Gordon Hayward. Will they have another one? I'm not so sure about that. To have 4 guys in the span of about 4 years to be able to graduate and go on to the NBA, that's quite an accomplishment.
And the MAAC in the meantime since, over the last 20 years, has not produced as many with every team member, every school in the league, as many as LaSalle was producing at that time. Obviously, Jason Thompson's the best since, and other guys have had short runs, but that LaSalle group was really second to none. Let's take a look at the evolution of the MAAC, which dates back to 1981. Again, we're celebrating the 30-year anniversary of this league, and those are the charter members. Still have Iona, Fairfield, Manhattan, and St. Peter's remaining. Then LaSalle and Holy Cross joined Army and Fordham, and they went forward as an 8-team league until 1989 when the 2 Western New York schools, Canisius and Niagara, joined along with Siena and Joe Boylan's Loyola Greyhounds. Then we had some defections. LaSalle still remained, and so that Doug Overton, Randy Woods combo after Simmons was gone remained in place for a little bit, and they continued to dominate until they were graduated. They left the conference, and then you see the addition of Marist and Ryder in 97, and so now it's been 14 years where we've had this 10-team league, and it's looking like it'll stay that way for the foreseeable future.
What you've got is 10 like institutions. When you see all this conference realignment across the country, a lot of times it's because you've got schools that have different agendas. Here in the MAAC, you've got 10 schools that basically fit a similar profile.
Yep.
One of the reasons why you have not seen movement, despite all the realignment all over the country as far as conferences are concerned.
And those similarities are small, Catholic, Northeast, basketball-centric athletic departments.
Yep, but not every school is Catholic. Obviously, Marist not so. But when you look at it, you're right. There's a lot of things that are similar amongst these institutions.
When you talk about the Atlantic 10 Conference or the Big East Conference, I mean, the Big East is driven like the other Power 6 conferences by football in terms of a lot of their decisions. Fairfield keeps working on the glass, and the Atlantic 10 is a whole different kettle of fish. They don't have football driving the bus, but they've got other things trying to determine. I mean, you talk about Fordham on one end and Xavier on the other. Menelik Watson with the putback. And Marist cuts the lead back to single digits. But that's a league that, unlike the MAAC, has all sorts of different profiles.
And also geographically spread all over the place. And again, the geographic footprint of this conference is really tight. You got the two teams out in western New York, but everybody else basically within a bus ride.
While we have a moment, let's take a look back 25 years ago, the first time ESPN had the MAAC championship game live.
ESPN presents college basketball. Tonight, the Metro Atlantic Championship from the Meadowlands in East Rutherford, New Jersey. Metro Atlantic action, Fred White and Dick Vitale standing by this evening, and we'll get a few pregame thoughts.
Here tonight, Holding Cross knows they have to win to go. Fairfield, maybe they have to win to go too.
Fred, I really believe they must win. Just think about last year with West Virginia. In fact, there were a number of teams that won 20 games last year and did not get into the big dance. Mitch Bonagoro knows it. I was in his locker room prior to the game about 20 minutes ago, Fred, and he is a nervous wreck.
And take a look at Mitch Bonaguro against George Blaney as Fairfield played Holy Cross at the Meadowlands for that MAAC championship back in 1986. A.J. Winder for Fairfield. He went on to play in the NBA with the Boston Celtics. Fairfield won that game 67-64. And how about Dickie V circa 1987?
That was before he was a PTP.
Yes.
He was a diaper dandy back then.
And how about Mitch Bonaguro?
How about the graphics to start it? Boy, TV's come a long way.
I know. Bob Lee still remains at ESPN doing his thing, as does Dickie V. Fairfield would love a repeat performance here this year. Chance to cut down the nets on Monday if they can navigate through the quarters tonight and the semis tomorrow. Colin Nickerson of the #1 seeded Fairfield Stags up by 11. It is an amazing memory as we look at 30 years of MAAC basketball, and it's amazing to me, Rob Kennedy, how off of Rolly Massimino's staff that had won that national championship at Villanova, 3 different assistant coaches in the blink of an eye were head coaches in this conference almost overnight.
Yeah, you think of the success they had. Steve Lapis at Manhattan, and then as well up at Canisius,
Marty Marbach. And then Mitch Bonaguro had a good run for a few years at Fairfield. And he's now the head coach at Siena College, and we will see Coach Bonaguro and the Saints later on tonight as Colin Nickerson now with consecutive buckets as the Stags have tried to reassert control.
Oh, he's so quick in the open floor, and you'll see how quickly he turns defense into offense. He comes up with the loose ball and just outraces everybody up the floor.
Now Marist had used a 9-2 run to cut the lead to 9 at 32-23, but since that time Fairfield has once again flexed its muscles and has the lead back to 13. Derek Needham leads all scorers with 17. Nobody else in double figures. Anel Alexis with the ball now leads Marist with 8. Lyndon Jordan, the senior from Georgia, into the ball game. Gets it back from Needham. So right now you've got 2 freshmen, 2 sophomores, and a senior on the floor. It's the sophomore Needham who gets it back. If he can save it, indeed he does, while straddling that center court line. Midpoint of half number 2 in quarterfinal number 2. The 2011 Spark Energy MAAC Basketball Championships presented by Pepsi Max.
Just opening the floor and trying to allow guys to take their man off the dribble.
Needham again draws the contact. Great body control. Barrow will shoot 2. We've seen it time and again tonight. Derek Needham able to drive into traffic, initiate the contact, keep the shoulders square, and get off a good-looking shot.
He's got great body control. The athleticism, the upper body strength. Even though he misses it again, what happens, because they get so spread, 4 out and 1 in, now all of a sudden you got lanes, their athleticism able to really show as they dive down those lanes for offensive rebounds.
And to the free throw line goes Maurice Barrow out of Middle Village, Queens, New York, out of Christ the King High School. MAAC fans, the MAAC is on Facebook. Make sure to catch up on the latest MAAC news by logging on to facebook.com/MAAC Sports. Bowie and Watson out for the Red Foxes. Nickerson again gets his hand on a pass, and it leads to a turnover. He's second in the league at 1.7 steals per game, and he just keeps causing fits for Marist with those 20 turnovers.
Yeah, can't win a ball game if you turn it over 20 times. Nearly as many turnovers as points.
Easy assist for Needham. Barrow the easy layup. And the Fairfield Stags on its home floor back in control.
And Chucky Martin forced to take another timeout. Doesn't want to allow this one to get away from them. They caught him off guard when they went to the full court pressure off of the made foul shot. The long arms right there of Colin Nickerson to come up with the deflection. And then they quickly turn the turnover into 2 points.
7 straight points rattled off by Fairfield to open up the largest lead of the night. 70-60, the score of our first quarterfinal as we take a look at our Spark Energy MAAC Championship brackets brought to you by New York Life. The winner of this ball game will advance to take on John Dunn's Peacocks of St. Peter's tomorrow at 2 o'clock.
And as we said earlier, last time that St. Peter's played Fairfield, if the Stags are able to hang on and advance on into that semifinal, it was a ball game that went into overtime. Both these teams built on their defense. It'd be hard to score in that ball game. Stags back up in the full court pressure. Turnover number 21 for Marist. Price with his size, Doug, if they inbound the basketball to him that deep against that full court pressure, it really puts him in a tough spot. See right here, you just put him in a position where he doesn't have any room to maneuver. Runs out of real estate, another turnover.
Under 9 minutes remaining in regulation. And a foul is again, Anel Alexis tries to work his way to the bucket. Well, Marist made a push to get within 9. Let's see if they've got another push in them. Nice looking set. They just couldn't convert the pass from Carter to Bauer.
Yeah, needed to get it there quicker.
There's Nickerson again hounding a Marist guard, and again he knocks the ball away.
Well, there's those quick hands. As we said, he's got the quick feet, Doug, to get in position to force the turnover, and then able to strip it away. Marist, 23 turnovers, Doug, 23 points.
Officially the third steal by Nickerson, although I'm guessing he deflected a lot more passes than that. Lyndon Jordan buries the jump shot. Under 8 minutes remaining. Jordan now with 4 points off the Fairfield bench.
And Doug, here's their versatility defensively. Look, Matthews outguarding the point guard 25 feet from the floor. And when you've got the ability to switch and guys are able to not only switch but be able to contain guys after that switch, boy, it's hard to score against you.
Offensive foul called against Derek Needham, and that takes us to our next media timeout. Fairfield in complete control now, 41-23. They can see the MAAC semifinals just 7:25 away. Welcome back to the Spark Energy MAAC Championships presented by Pepsi Max. Fairfield trying to move on to the semifinal round like that gentleman already has. The head coach of the St. Peter's Peacocks, John Dunn, able to relax with Steve Amedio, who writes the MAAC blog at MAACsports.com. The two of them enjoying this second of our two men's quarterfinals. And then the ball game that's coming up next, you'll have a chance to see the two leading scorers and rebounders in the MAAC go head-to-head. Ryan Rossiter, the MAAC Player of the Year, will lead Siena, the three-time defending champs, against Mike Glover and the Iona Gales. That's coming up next. Be sure to check your local listings. Well, Ed Cooley said earlier this week, Rob, when asked by the media, you know, you finally get to have the home court advantage. Do you think it will be an advantage this weekend? And he said, call Fran McCaffrey and ask him how important home court advantage is, meaning the former Siena coach and how much they were able to utilize that in Albany the last 3 years.
Yeah, although my response to that would be, I don't think it would have mattered where you played. Now, certainly the crowd helped carry them through in that championship game last year when they were able to beat Ed Cooley's team. That's when all of a sudden that home court advantage took over. When they weren't playing well and the crowd carried them, they got the game into overtime, and then they were able to win it. But that team was so good, I'm not so sure it depended where you were going to play. Neutral floor or on somebody else's home floor, I think the Saints were going to win it anyway.
And I don't mean to make it sound like Coach Cooley was implying that they won it only because.
Exactly, but it is an advantage.
Doesn't hurt. There's no question about that.
If you said to any coach in the league, would you rather play in a neutral floor, on the road, or at home, where's anybody going to say? Yeah,
of course. Jamel Fields with the putback.
And because of the fact that Siena was able to march through and win 3 consecutive championships on their home floor, one of the reasons why, after this year, the MAAC Championships is going to go to a truly neutral site up in Springfield for the next couple of years.
Oh, you talked about it, Rob. Here is last year's championship game where Edwin Ubelis, part of that terrific senior class, managed to hold on and beat Derek Needham and the Fairfield Stags, although Fairfield gave them all they could handle.
Yeah, forced that game into overtime, and then all of a sudden, a little too much size inside. Ryan Rossiter on that putback. You see the dejection in Derek Needham's face. The jubilation for the Stags as they went dancing for the 3rd consecutive year.
And for the 2nd time in 3 years, it was Ed Cooley's Stags who came in second. Trying to cut down the nets here Monday night in Bridgeport.
And last year, after Fran McCaffrey's team won, they ended up running into a Purdue team in the first round of the NCAA tournament after pulling a win and upsets in each of the previous 2 years. And Fran McCaffrey with a little payback against Purdue earlier today. Fran McCaffrey with his first signature win as the head coach at Iowa with a big win earlier today against Purdue.
We're here in Bridgeport, Connecticut on quarterfinal Saturday of the MAAC Championship. Marist has been playing catch-up all evening long against the top-seeded Fairfield Stags. It took 6.5 minutes for Marist to score its first point. And now it's Marist turning the tables, taking the ball away from Fairfield.
One thing about Marist, they have not packed it in. It's a young team. 85% of their scoring, Doug, comes out of their freshman and sophomore classes. When you talk about young, doesn't get much younger than that.
And that was Dorvell Carter, who's now got 5 points. He's a sophomore for Marist. Well, this time of year and in situations like this, teams can go one of two ways, I would imagine. Either they want to keep playing, they want to keep fighting, or they cannot wait to get away from their coach, their teammates, and get to the offseason.
Well, you're right. And that's why I think it was really important for Marist, and certainly Chucky Martin in his 3rd year as the head coach, even though they've struggled, just 6 wins on the season, to get that win last night in the first round, to show that this team has still got some fight in it.
Derek Needham now with 20.
Now Needham with that great start to the first half, his first field goal here in the second half with that 3.
Well, he had 15 points in the first half when Fairfield established control. Got an injury timeout on the floor as we take another look at Dorvell Carter firing away. And then Derek Needham, who was so hot from the perimeter in the first half, finding the range. Another signature performance for Derek Needham here tonight.
Last year he averaged over 20 per game in his 3 games in the MAAC tournament.
Menelik Watson was the injured player for Marist, who has left the ball game. Marist, the number 9 seed, trying to pick off the top-seeded Fairfield Stags, but at this point, it certainly doesn't appear to be a possibility. Along with Rob Kennedy and Joe Boylan, this is Doug Sherman. We've got 2 more quarterfinals coming up tonight. Alexis has played a nice game.
As you said, he's done a good job. The redshirt freshman coming on as the season has worn on, including that career-high 22 in the regular season finale against Siena.
Now Alexis, before he could start his freshman year at Marist, suffered a torn ACL in the summer of '09 and had to have surgery, missed his freshman year, so he's a redshirt freshman this year. Minutes have come and gone for him, but he certainly seems to be finishing out the year strong. Under 4 minutes remaining. Grusin over Fields. Rebounding foul against Bauer, and that'll take us to break. Fairfield 48, Marist 29. The winner advances to face St. Peter's tomorrow. The 2011 Spark Energy MAAC Basketball Championships are brought to you by Pepsi Max, 0 calories, maximum Pepsi taste. FYE, strictly for your entertainment. New York Life Insurance Company. Learn more at newyorklife.com. And by the 2011 Spark Energy MAAC Basketball Championships. Buy your tickets today on Ticketmaster.com, MAACsports.com, or by calling 1-800-745-3000. The 2011 Spark Energy MAAC Basketball Championships. Every game counts. Back in Bridgeport, Connecticut, Ryan Olander at the free throw line, shooting 1-1 for Fairfield. Well, if you are between the ages of 6 and 16, make sure to register for the MAAC Bounce to the Arena. It'll take place Sunday at noon in downtown Bridgeport. Participants will receive a basketball that they will bounce along a planned route, starting at People's United Bank and finishing at Webster Bank Arena here at Harbor Yard. Participants will also receive admission to the men's semifinal games of the Spark Energy MAAC Basketball Championships. For more information, log on to MAACsports.com. Well, Fairfield has only 1 player in double figures. Needham with 22, yet they are in complete control, bucketed by Keith Matthews. Now the second leading scorer is Colin Nickerson with 6, and in spite of that, they're cruising on top 51-29.
If you hold your opponent to under 30 points, you're in good shape. You're in pretty good shape.
But they've gotten terrific defense from pretty much everybody on the floor. Nickerson hounding still. Again, another deflection, and he's going to get himself an easy 2.
And he deserves that easy 2. Because he's the guy that comes up with the deflection. He may not get credit for the steal, but he's the guy that made the defensive play.
Well, ever since Marist cut the lead to 9 earlier here in the second half, Fairfield has gone on a 21-6 run and never looked back. Rusin, strong finish.
And finished with the left with Olander coming over to challenge.
Olander has 3 blocks here tonight. He's a 7-footer, and you're right, for Rusin to be able to finish like that is a nice-looking shot.
And he's got to be able to do more of that. You know, he's a guy who came in last year and really shot it so great from beyond the 3. But you got to be able to expand your game, and he didn't make that big jump from his freshman to sophomore year. It could be a huge offseason for this young Marist team. Talk about the fact 85% of their points from the freshman and sophomore class. Now you got to step up and do a little bit more. Now you got to let that translate not into just putting up points and numbers, but starting to get some wins.
Well, can they do at Marist what John Dunn has done at St. Peter's? Keep that young class together and grow with them. Go through some of the growing pains, but reap the rewards down the stretch and in the years to come. Our Pepsi Max slam of the game was off of that steal. Colin Nickerson, the easy 2. Our Pepsi Max slam of the game.
And Doug, I think that's a good question that you asked, because that's what, if you're a Red Fox fan in Marist, that's what you're saying. Okay, now we got young guys. Can we make that next step? They've got to continue to bring in some more good guys. Isaiah Morton, a 5'8" jet with the basketball out of St. Augustine down in South Jersey. And Manny Thomas, a very good player out of the New York City Catholic League from Xaverian. So they've got some guys coming in. They've got to get a couple other guys to be able to put into that mix. And then they've got a lot going on campus to help them out. The expansion and renovation of the McCann Center. They're building a brand new practice facility, $6.8 million project. As you take a look at, we may be seeing some history here tonight as they are stuck on 31. They've got a lot going on to try and help their men's and women's basketball programs, help turn their men's program around, and help keep their women's program not only at the top of the MAAC, but ranked 18th in the country, to try and keep them up there with just about anybody across the country.
Timeout called by Chuck Martin just to get another player into the ball game. The Fairfield student section's fired up because Gary Martin, a junior from Cleveland, just scored 2 points. And they are loving watching the walk-ons get into the ball game. So a job well done. Lyndon Jordan, one of the seniors, out of the ball game with just over a minute in regulation. And here is the aforementioned Gary Martin, who's feeling it. We also see Pat McDerby, who's gotten into the game for the first time for Marist. Fine young man who we got a chance to meet earlier this season, one of our trips up to Poughkeepsie. And the home court folks here in Bridgeport, Connecticut, rise to their feet as one.
I'll tell you what, they had a terrific crowd, good energy from the student section, and the defensive intensity right from the start of this ball game from Fairfield was something special.
Well, Ed Cooley said he couldn't wait to get here. Woke up at 3 o'clock this morning. Had to wait around all day, and it certainly was well worth the wait.
His team guarded like they couldn't wait to get playing, too. Coming off the loss on the road in the regular season finale against Iona, they bounced back with great energy on the defensive end. Maybe a little too amped up on the offensive end, but they brought it defensively.
Final possession of the season for the Red Foxes, trying to get the walk-on McDerby into the scoring column. Can't do it. The top-seeded Fairfield Stags move on to the semifinals. Our Pepsi Max player of the game, Derek Needham. He was the offense tonight. 15 points in the first half. He finishes with a game-high 22.
And his defense on the basketball set the tone. He had 6 steals to go along with those 22 points. And his ability to defend the basketball off the bounce, along with Colin Nickerson and just about everybody else out there on the floor from the Stags, the reason why Ed Cooley's team walks off with the impressive win.
And again, the defense of Ed Cooley's Fairfield Stags sets a new MAAC championship record by holding an opponent to only 31 points. The record was held by Manhattan holding Loyola to 37 back in 1993. We'll take a break and come back with head coach Ed Cooley and a couple of his ball players who are on to the MAAC semifinals here in Bridgeport.